Next up, please welcome Peter Forsgren, the co-founder and COO of 3+one, a financial services firm specializing in public entities.
Thank you. I didn't mean to have Judge Moore missed. He's agreed to be up here with me and grateful for that. And just honored to be after all these amazing speakers. By way of introduction, if you don't mind a story, I have a sister who lives in Georgetown. I come down here every Thanksgiving for Thanksgiving with her. And one day I'm traveling with my brother. He's a retired Navy veteran. We're on the 71, 75, I believe, where there's 2 lanes. I believe it was this. And I can see up ahead, there's 2 semis, right? And one of them's coming up on the other. But you know how semis are. One must be going 65 and the other's going 66. And before I can get past both of them, one of the semis get over. My brother, sensing some frustration because, well, shall we say I was going a little faster than that, right? And I don't want to, I'll plead the fifth on how fast, but I wasn't going to get by him. And now he's sensing my frustration. And being a good Navy man, he says, you know, I don't get frustrated when I get behind semis. I actually appreciate it. And I'm like, well, okay, why is that? Well, and he, knowing the history of the interstate system, he's like, Eisenhower's vision was to be able to move goods and equipment and supplies, right? Having come out of World War II, we understood the importance of being able to move things around. And the infrastructure has been a huge boon to our country, has it not, right? The economic benefit we receive by this massive infrastructure project has been incredible. So he helps change my perspective of things that we take for granted on a daily basis. Now, bringing that back down to local government, a passion I've had all my life, going back, that's what my education was in, getting a master's in public administration, always wanting to serve the public, was what is it that public entities do? The services that are constantly being provided. And we take for granted until the moments that we need them, right? When the storm comes through and there's a tree over the county road, we've taken that road for granted. And until somebody comes and removes that, we don't really appreciate all the work that goes day in and day out. And it's not just that, right? It's the waters and the sewers, it's the protection, the fire, it's the policing services, judicial system, crisis management, which we've heard so much about today, the social service level activities that go on. All those services take significant amount of resources, right? And I always chuckle when I catch myself saying resources. Sorry, the synonym for resources is money. Right? That's all that it is it takes money because infrastructure ages. Equipment needs to be updated. Cybersecurity becomes a big risk, and we have to invest in our technology there. Everything just changes, and with time, resources are needed, and the people who take it for granted don't necessarily appreciate it, but they don't want it to end ever. Right? Once you add a service. And so our dedication and taking so seriously, grateful for the KACo and NACo willing to allow us to be a strategic partner. We understand that there's reputation on the line, to not disappoint, to be that partner with them in serving public entities, to make sure that what we do. And so what is it that we do, right? It says right there, make sure I advance this the same way everybody else does. We're just a data company. I say just because I shouldn't say that. One of our core values is exceed expectations, and we do that with our employees. We want to exceed expectations of our employees. Why? Because they're the ones who turn around and are serving the public entities. And so our core value, exceed expectations of those who we serve. And those employees take this data information, and when they work with you, they turn it into reality, making real life decisions. We don't do anything but provide all of that information, but then helping interpret it, being on the phone, being partners, an extension of your office so that things can happen. And they happen in the areas that you're looking. Sorry, I'm looking at the TV down here, right? Whether it's borrowing decisions, investment decisions, cash management decisions, all the tools and services that happen. And the other, I love the financial literacy discussion, by the way, by Secretary Ball, because I was selling eggs at a very young age. I'm one of 11 siblings and always had appreciation for money. And so, you know, cash management and money is always important. And I learned early on that money has value every second of the day. It never sleeps. If you borrow money and you go on vacation, interest didn't take vacation. It has value. Somebody's getting that value. Now, if you're on the investing side, it also has value every second of the day. And so that's what our data is designed to do, maximize the value of your resource, which, AKA, money. How do you maximize it? We don't invest it. We don't anything. It's just giving data-driven decisions so that, well, that didn't come across well, did it, on the screen? So that you're able to make quick and efficient decisions in a way that maximizes the value that it has back to your constituents, whether it's shoring up fund balance, going into the infrastructure, social services, police protection, whatever it might be, using the data in ways. And so we're bringing that data in. Everything, daily ins and outs, every single transaction that flows through your financial system, we're going to get it. Not just on a monthly basis, we're talking every single day. To create cash flows, yes, that can be done, but getting to the second part, what we call liquidity management, right? And we heard about those principles, making sure your money's available when you need to send it out to pay the bills, making sure it's safe, and then yield. But those are not mutually exclusive, right? And when there's data there behind it, when you're able to stress test it, so we take in this information and we stress test it and we model it, and we have multiple different models. And it's wonderful what technology allows us to do to bring in those models in massive amounts of stress testing, 50,000, 100,000s of times of moving this around and seeing what's going on for each specific entity. What are your patterns? And how does that dollar have value? So if you're bringing $1 today, but I need it tomorrow, okay, we've already established it has value for that one day. But what about $1 I have today and that I don't need for 2 years? That's a different value proposition. And because of the stress test modeling and the forecasting and quickly being able to see those results, being able to make a decision that then maximizes that value, right? And so this statistic, I have a big statistic background, don't ever mean to be deceptive. In terms of putting more of the work, it's always at work. It's how it flows through from that work. So if some of those dollars are being treated as if they're going to be spent tomorrow, then using that data to move it into a category that says, oh, but I don't need it for a month, because there's a different value assigned to money needed tomorrow than a value of dollars that's needed in a month. And if there's money sitting in areas where you think you're going to use it in a month, but the data says, oh, I can push that out to 6 months, that increases that value. So putting more of that to work is that really the shifting along the slide of how long you're able to use it. And so this is the type of difference that it makes, right? When we say portfolio, we're not investment advisors, I'm not that. When I mean that, I mean your average. Think of just your average, even whether it's general fund, but all the cash that you handle over the course of a year, and their two portfolios are the same. By making that slide along by saying, okay, some of my dollars can shift to a month and some can shift to 6 months, and then I have some at 6 months that I could probably actually take out 2 years, that increases the return from 2.2 to 3.2 on an average, because something that's due tomorrow, well, the value is much less. But if it's not for 2 years, so shifting it along with data-driven decisions, on a $10 million, that's $100,000 in today's rates. Now, if you're not that big of an entity and you're $1 million entity, it's 10,000, right? But if you're a $100 million entity, it's $1 million. So it doesn't matter the size. It's using that same information or the same types of modeling and everything to shift it along in order to accomplish, right, the goals of maximizing that value. I emphasized this the other night. I'm an 11-year elected official myself on a school board, 6 years president, last 3 years been really challenging. But was talking last night, when I first moved into my community, I would take my property tax check and I'd walk it in. And yeah, I don't like checks, by the way, but I did this on purpose because I would start the timer when I gave it to the collector and wanted to see how long it stayed in my bank account. And for the first 15 years, it was no less than 10 days. That was always shocking to me because I thought for every $5 million at 3.5%, here's my number geek, every $5 million, that's a loss in $4,800 in interest to the collector and the school district, right? $4,800. Now, this was before I was on the board. Now it's overnight. I was happy I stayed in my checking account for 10 days, candidly, right? But because that was money I still had, I was earning interest. Somebody was getting value, but it wasn't the collector's office. It wasn't the school district. And now our school district collects over 70 million. That's meaningful revenue to our district. It applies to teachers, right, in the district. For you as counties, what will it apply to, right? What is equipment that you need? Does your reserve need to be shored up in certain areas where after a crisis, reserves got dipped into? What does it mean? How do we slide it along? And so that's just been the experience. Grateful for the confidence that Judge Moore has given to us and turned some time over to him and being able to use all this service and saying, how did it benefit Boone County?
Thank you, Peter. You know, I want to thank Commissioner Kenner, Commissioner Flagg, who are in the room, for agreeing to sign the contract with this group. I learned of cashVest 3+1 through NACo while I was serving as president, and we gave it a try because we really thought we have nothing to lose. We were getting so little interest off of the money we had, and the accounts that they invest in can't lose money. So why not? And as you can see on the screen, now I want to be clear, it's not that they saved us over $500,000. They produced over $500,000 more than we would have had if not working with them and their programs. So again, it's a great use of your taxpayer dollars to allow those dollars to be working for you rather than sitting in the bank. One of the things we learned with their analysis was we had more money just sitting around. We're very conservative in Boone County, and we wanted to make sure that we had money when we needed money, and we still do. The things that are invested in things that have a lot of immediate, if we need to get to dollars that we didn't think we needed, we can still get to them. So I recommend the program. As I said before, I see little reason not to do it. And that money is $500,000 more money we have for our projects, for our resident, than we would have had if not working with this company. So I'm going to let Peter keep using his time to explain the program. But my county treasurer and my county administrator, they are ecstatic about this. I got to admit, when you talk to your treasurer, and my treasurers are in the room, they might be a little offended. It's like, well, I already look at that. I already invest the money wisely. And my treasurer, who's different than my current treasurer, not because of this, but basically pushed back and said, we don't need that program, we're fine. But it worked. And this company knows how to look for other ways to invest. My final comment is, if you have a strong relationship with your banker, local banks, they're going to get a look at this, and if they can compete, they'll be given that shot. But if they can't compete, then you've got a decision to make. But come on back up and finish up. But I strongly recommend taking a look at this program. Did I mess up anything?
No.
All right.
Do you ever mess up anything? I don't know. I've just heard wonderful things about him. Don't have too much more in terms of that. Really grateful for the public sector. Grateful for all that you do. Times have changed, right? The technology that allows us to, what's the best choice of words? Brute force data analysis is what made all this possible in most recent times. I have been working in the finance area for many years, and I recognize what he just mentioned, right? That when I first went in about 25 years ago to somebody, and I was with a spreadsheet and an original laptop, I had offended, not on purpose. I was just trying to be of service, but I was stepping on toes. The technology has changed so much that allows the level of analysis to happen that we recognize. I have never been in a lazy finance office, never. The cycle never ends. The month ends, the books have to be closed. The budget cycle, yes, may have just finished the budget cycle, but that means the next fiscal year budget cycle has already started. It just never slows down. And this data analysis is really designed to be an extension of the team, that we can just take in data and provide reports that we hope will allow someone to say, I can look at it within a couple minutes every day or every once a week, make some decisions, and move back into the multitude of other tasks that we have. It's a pleasure being here with you. We're less than a week, if you can believe it, from Thanksgiving. I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I do appreciate all that you do. I try not to take it for granted, as my brother pointed out to me all those years ago, and look forward and hope that we can be of service to you. Thank you so much.